Greetings, my beautiful lovelies. It's Emmy. How are you? It's great to see you and welcome back to yet another few ingredient recipe. If you've missed my previous episodes where I make things with very few ingredients, you should definitely check out the playlist. Today we are making cookies because it's the time of year where we're making sweet treats and we don't have a lot of time. So the fewer ingredients, the easier to do, the more appealing. But will it taste good? That is why we're here. We're going to make the recipe and then of course sample it, and then I'll let you know what I think about it. Today we are making cookies because cookies are very popular around the holidays. I love the idea of consumable gifts and 'tis the season for indulgence. Magic ingredients are cake box mix and Cool Whip. Combine these together and they should form cookies, but like many of these very few ingredient recipes, there are a couple of other ingredients, namely powdered sugar and an egg. Now, some of the recipes do not include the egg, so I'm going to test out with an egg and without an egg. And the other ingredient is not a can, but what's inside this can, which is powdered sugar. Now, this is not required, but this will make it look like a lovely crinkle cookies. The crinkle cookies are the chocolate cookies that have powdered sugar on the outside, and when they bake, they kind of crack, and they have this beautiful kind of cracked pattern. And you only get that contrast when you have the white powdered sugar and the nice dark chocolate cookie. So I'm going to include it. So technically, this is a 3 or 4 ingredient recipe. We're going to try one with the egg and see if it makes a difference, and if so, what it changes. The flavor, consistency, I don't know. That's why we're here. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's begin with the recipe that includes the egg. I'm using a box of Devil's Food chocolate cake. Empty that into our bowl. I've made cookies from a cake box mix before, but not this crinkle version. If you want to check that out, I'll put a link to it down below. Now we're going to use our second ingredient, which is Cool Whip topping. This is found in the frozen food section, and you should let this thaw out in your refrigerator. They tell you not to leave it on the counter to thaw because the consistency will change, but basically this is kind of like whipped cream. I'm explaining these for those that don't live in the States. So it looks like whipped cream, right? And it's pre-whipped and you can add it to your desserts. I'm not sure how stable it is at a higher temperature, but it saves you the effort of having to whip it yourself. We're going to empty the entire container into the cake mix. Look how fluffy it is. This is called Cool Whip, but it's certainly not whipped cream because there is some dairy in it. But the top 5 ingredients are water, corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, vegetable oil. So this is going to substitute the oil that we normally add to the cake box mix. Granted, this is going to be a little bit drier because we're making cookies, right? Okay, 1 egg. Whoa. Next, we're going to mix this with our electric mixer for about 1 minute until everything is well combined. Very curious about this consistency because we're adding this whipped topping to all of this powder. How's it going to incorporate? Let's see. So this mixture is very thick. It reminds me of marshmallow. It's very, very thick, and I see why they recommend using an electric mixer, because doing this by hand, while you can do it, would be more effort. Also, if I wasn't clear, it's important that your Cool Whip be thawed or at refrigerator temperature, not in its frozen state. It won't have that fluffy consistency if you just get it straight out of the freezer. Okay, carry on. We're going to do this for about 1 minute. Whoa, it's just snaking up the beaters. Okay, I'm gonna pull it down. It's like very, very chewy feeling. Even though I'm not chewing it, it feels very ropey and stretchy. So weird. Now I don't want to get up into the motors, so I'm gonna pull this down. Motor, there's not multiple motors, there's just one. Okay, I think I'm gonna mix the rest of this by hand. There's a little bit of cake mix at the bottom, so I'm gonna just fold that in. Okay, Now this is super sticky, not a typical cookie dough consistency at all. And this is with the egg. I'm very curious to see how this is going to whip up without the egg. Will it be even stickier and drier? I mean, I imagine so. Now we're introducing the powdered sugar. So this is our fourth ingredient. I'm using a number 40 little scooper here. This is 1.5 tablespoons. Most scoopers like these will have a little number and it'll tell you what the size is. Okay, scoop and then into the powdered sugar. Super sticky. This will act a bit like flour. Keep it from sticking. And then roll it to coat. I think this is actually pretty essential, because it would be so sticky otherwise. Okay, all right, now on to our pan. I'm guessing these are going to spread a bit, so leave some space. Use your spoon to roll. They look like little munchkins. Those are the Dunkin' donut holes, the powdered sugar covered ones. Now we'll put them there. I'm gonna put 6 on this plate. So far, super easy. I think I've spent all of 5 minutes on this recipe so far. Cute, little dusty balls. They look a little bit like tea cakes, right? Or Mexican wedding cookies, sometimes called Russian tea cookies. Now we're going to pop these into a preheated 350-degree oven and bake them for about 13 to 15 minutes, or until they crackle and look set up in the middle. Okay, so this is the first batch. And while that's going, let's make the other batch without the egg. Pretty much the same process. 1 bag of cake mix, 1 container of Cool Whip, thawed. Stuff is so fluffy. Look at that. The consistency is so cool. Okay, into the bowl. Curious to see how hard it is to mix by hand. It is challenging because the cake mix is reluctant to mix into the whipped topping. It's so fluffy, but it's kind of a pleasurable experience because it's like kind of like making a fluffy slime. Doing it this way doesn't seem as such a stiff mixture, but I'm sure that will change. For this last bit, I think I'm going to use my Danish whisk because it is getting stiffer. This is great for these types of situations. Although this one likes to break, sometimes this part comes separated from the handle. But yeah, you don't need an electric mixer at all, just some elbow grease. And if you don't have a Danish whisk, that's fine. A wooden spoon would be great. Something rigid and tough. Alrighty, I think there we have it. There's our mixture. This seems less elastic and stretchy and marshmallow fluff-like, and this is more of a stiff batter, which makes sense because we don't have an egg. Ooh, look at these. These are looking great. Look. Cute. Puffy chubbers. Cracking nicely. Oh, like. Hello, friends. Alrighty, same method here. Ice cream scoop. Ooh, yeah, this is stickier. If you don't have one of those ice cream scoopers, you could also use a tablespoon, but some kind of spoon to get them even would be nice. Pretty generous with the powdered sugar here. So I'm going to bake these at the same temperature, 350 degrees, for the same amount of time, 13 to 15 minutes, or until the cookies look done. And then we'll do a little side-by-side comparison with egg and without. Alrighty, my lovelies, I'm back with the baked Cool Whipped cookies. Can you guess which one contains the egg? If you guessed this one, you are right. So the egg version spread a little bit more than the non-egg version, which makes sense. A little bit more liquid, a little bit more spread. These ones to me look a little bit more crackled than these. A little bit more crinkled. You can see more of the interior of the cookie versus the one that does not contain any egg. They're a little poofier, a little bit taller, and they didn't spread as much. So that's the aesthetic differences. Let's find out the differences in the interior and of course flavor and texture. Alrighty, moment of truth, let's give them a taste. Let's try the egg one first. So these have come out of the oven and I've let them cool on a rack. Let's see what it looks like inside. Well, let me show you the bottom. Beautiful crinkled top, bottom, interesting. Let's see what the texture's like. Oh, soft. Kind of fudgy. Looks kind of cakey too. Alrighty, let's give it a taste. Itadakimasu. Those are pretty good. They taste a lot like a freshly baked cookie that you would get out of a bakery from a supermarket. There is a mass-produced kind of industrial flavor to them. Having said that, they taste pretty good. There's a nice kind of simultaneous crispness yet chewiness to them. That I really like. Then you've got the powdered sugar that kind of melts away once you take a bite of them. Just in the interior of the mouth, it just melts away. It reminds me of a powdered donut. The interior is fluffy yet a little bit chewy. The edges are more chewy while the interior is more fluffy and cake-like with just a little bit of a chew. Good chocolate flavor. It tastes like chocolate cake. Makes sense. But I'm pleasantly surprised by the texture. I like the chewiness of it. It doesn't feel like a cake that's been turned into a cookie. It tastes like a cookie with a nice chewiness to it. And aesthetically, I think they turned out really cute too. The contrast between the powdered sugar and the chocolate looks great and exactly picture perfect when I think of a crinkle style cookie. So let's compare it with the no egg version, which is a little bit smaller than the one that contains an egg and a little bit taller too. Alrighty, let's see what it looks like inside. Yeah, a little thicker, more cake-like. This one looks a little chewy too. Alrighty, let's give this one a taste. Itadakimasu. These are good too. These ones are more cake-like. They're fluffier, they're thicker. Same chocolatey flavor. And these are a little less chewy, but maybe that has something to do with me mixing the first one with a mixer, so more gluten was developed, perhaps. But I like these too. These are also more chewy on the sides, just like the one that contains the egg. Around the edges of the cookie are a little bit more chewier. There is kind of crisp crackliness that happens a little bit, but these are more cakey. A little bit sticky, but which one do I like better? It's hard to decide. Surprisingly, I don't have a decisive winner here. I think both textures are great. I think it's whether or not you prefer a cakier cookie or a chewier, flatter cookie. In that case, you would go with an egg. But if you want a really easy 2-ingredient, well, technically 3-ingredient cookie, then you might want to skip the egg. I mean, this one is equally good as well. A little fluffier. Wow, I'm impressed. Based on my estimation, I would say one box of cake mix would make a couple dozen cookies, and it's pretty economical too. In my supermarket, the tub of Cool Whip was on sale for $2.50, and a cake box mix was about $2 as well. So for about $4 or $5, you can get a couple dozen cookies. Not too shabby. Alrighty, my lovelies, there you have it. Very easy to make and very few ingredient chocolate crinkles. Alrighty, my lovelies. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that one. I hope you learned something. Please share this video with your friends. Follow me on social media. Like this video. Subscribe. And I shall see you in the next one. Toodaloo. Take care. Bye. Oh, I'm tempted to eat another, but I've already eaten two. I haven't even had dinner yet.